Last week I'd started on a hound hunt for Sambar Deer near Eildon in my home state of Victoria. Together with some new friends from Sweden, we joined the Boag's hound crew, where the hound hunting tradition now spans 4 generations. I'd caught up with Paul Boag Sr., better known as Bogie, and he explained that for them, it's always been about family. There's no denying that hound hunting runs strong through the Boag blood. The tradition started with Pop Boag and it's been handed down through the generations, and Paul's son Adam now runs the crew. After a massive build-up, we'd all headed off and Magnus was straight into the action with Paul and Adam getting him in on a bailed stag that broke at the last minute but was taken cleanly by Bogie, and it was a fantastic start to the hunt. As the day was still young, we headed back over the range to get into position, and for our other guests, Erik and Torbjorn, they had also just got set up and were getting their first taste of Australia and Australian hunting. And the sights, sounds and smells of the Aussie bush were definitely something new and exciting.
We did red deer hunt in Hungary last year, and the terrain and the trees looks much the same, but it's much more thicker on the vegetation here. You can't see much on the...
All this stuff is all thicker.
All this stuff was not there.
We get a lot of this after a burn.
Yeah.
You can see all the trees are black. So I don't know how many years ago, I think it was about 7-8 years ago, this was all burnt out, and this is what comes back, all this viney little stuff on the ground, and grows thick.
But when you try to sneak up on something, you can't really be quiet when you're walking this.
No, well, it's all the bark, the sticks, like when you're walking along and you hear that noise, that's what we're listening for. When we hear a deer sneaking out, hear those sticks break. When it dries out, if we don't get it rain for a week, all the sticks go dry.
Yeah.
And you've got to stand on them, and you make a lot of noise. We have guys over here that actually hunt in socks.
Okay.
The
be quiet, yeah.
They put like 5 pairs of socks on, and walk around with socks. And of course the socks are so thick, when they stand on sticks, it doesn't break them. It moulds to the shape of their feet.
So if we have a slower morning, maybe we will end the day in socks.
Over to their west, Erik had teamed up with Sam and they started pushing in up a thick gully towards a clearing on a spur, where we reckoned it would be an ideal location for them to set up and wait, and hopefully Erik could get a clear shot if a deer came their way. For Sam though, who'd been there before, standing in the clearing gave him a laugh, and it brought back both fond memories as well as nightmares.
This is a notorious spot for me. I was telling Erik on the way last year or the year before, I was down a bit further and the dogs were coming across the top of the hill. But they were a long way away, I could just hear barking. And I thought I was out of the hunt. I heard a crack of a stick and these 2 big white antlers coming down. I've slowly loaded the gun and I thought I'll wait, and it got between me to that big tree away. These huge antlers looking at me, put the dot on his chest and gone click, and the gun wasn't loaded properly. It was in the thick stuff. The deer just quickly turned around and just vanished. Paul shot it later that day. Never forgiven me, so it haunts me.
Still. But it's a good spot then.
I'd really like you to shoot one here, because then we can put that ghost to rest.
Put the ghost to rest. I will try and load the gun.
Just ticked over midday and we're into phase 2 of the hunt now. It's been a great morning. Tell us what's going to happen now, mate, or what's the plan now?
The plan for now, they're back up top, similar area, a little bit further along. They found another different stag that wasn't the ones we got this morning.
Yep.
This one he's been rubbing trees and wallowing, so he should be hard antlered.
We're on the east flank, aren't we? We got Torbjorn and Erik up from us.
Erik's in the middle.
Yep.
Torbjorn's the next one along.
Where, in your opinion, where do you think this deer is most likely to run when it comes down the
If
side?
I had to pick a spot where Erik's sitting is my number 1 spot.
Okay, well we're thinking Erik's maybe in the prime spot this time. We've just been speaking to the guys on the radio. There's a bit of chatter there. Have we got dogs on deer yet or not?
I believe so. I was trying to get the bats. They're definitely moving and hunting.
Right.
Which actually Buck's now just decided he's come closer to us. He's 1.7 k's from us.
Okay.
So he's on the way straight towards us.
Okay.
and they believe they've seen one. So I'm waiting to get confirmation that Nick and Daz seen one up the top there.
Paul and I were just saying that the weather's being really kind to us today. The wind's just holding out nicely, even though they're a couple of kilometres away. If this wind drops or we just get it going our way, we should be able to hear the dogs pretty soon, I reckon.
All right, so we're just starting to hear them now. Just starting to hear them come over this side of the ridge down there. Coming straight down, I reckon, top of Erik at the moment. We've actually got two plaques. They've split. They're still about 1.9 from us, but we can hear them because they're on the opposite face coming down. Yeah, but there's a fair chance it'll do that double jump and still up down here. I'll find out. It looks like it's going straight at Eddie's. Right, all right, we'll drop out of here and go do that.
The deer had now changed direction, and to stay in the hunt, we had to move with it. With the hounds now moving away to the east, it was time for us to get moving as well. So we loaded up our gear and started heading off to try and get ahead of them. A few gullies over, Sam and Erik were also on the move, trying to stay ahead of the fast-moving hounds. They set up in a new position Sam thought was ideal, but after a long wait for all of us, it seemed the deer had turned to run high and make its escape back up and over the ridge and into another system. With the gullies on our side of the range falling quiet, it was agreed that everyone pull out for a break, and the guys all took time to catch up and warm up around an impromptu fire. Plenty of stories and laughs were being shared and exchanged from both sides of the equator, and the lads from Sweden got to meet a few more of the crew, and after a short spell, the boys got back into gear and started tracking out for sign, in hope of getting Les's hounds started on a hunt this side of the ridge. After a brief but solid search, no fresh marks could be found, so they headed back to the vehicles. Things were soon to get busy though, as Gags, another member of the crew, had now retrieved the hounds from the neighbouring system, and on his way back noticed the dogs showing a lot of interest in a particular gully. We headed up to meet him and got the dogs ready for what would hopefully be a fresh start.
The dogs have decided to air send or wind send something down there. You boys at the bottom all ready to go? All right, we'll let them go now. Right to go then, Gags. Walk in with them. We're just tipping him in, hoping they'll find it.
The dogs were slow to start hunting, so Gags headed in with them to try and get them going on a fresh set of marks. With the crew confident they would soon be voicing again, it was time for everyone to load up and move into position.
It's on again. It's on again.
We're on, Rob. We're on again, I think. It's going to happen. It's going to happen this time. Torbjorn and Les moved up a likely gully and set up to wait in a spot that Les knew well. And further to the west, Sam and Erik pushed deeper into the bush and headed up to a small spur to wait on a saddle, where Sam had previously known deer to cross. High above us, the dogs had finally picked up the scent and had now started to move. We could see the pack moving fast on the tracker, and after a few hours of silence, the exciting baying of the hounds could again be heard ringing through the bush, and everyone's heart started to beat faster. The nature of hound hunting, you read that right in the hunt or you're out of it. Right at the moment, we're out of it. But exciting times for your brother and Erik, because they're right in it. Paul, tell us what's happening now.
So now the dogs are on the other side of this main gully system to us, and they're just dropping straight down the ridge line, straight on top of where the two boys sort of should be sitting. And actually, as I speak now, they're swinging slightly our direction. Right. So we still could end up being in the middle of this, but so we've got the direction is they're straight above them.
On three spurs here, we're at the far eastern side, then we've got Torbjorn, or Erik, and then...
Erik in the middle.
Erik in the middle, then Torbjorn. So at the moment, dogs are heading towards them. They could divert. I think we're just starting to hear them now. The heart rate's starting to rise. Very shortly, it's going to get loud, and there's going to be a result of some sort between the three of us, or the deer turning and going back high. It's probably time for us to get...
At the moment, they're 700 from us, and they're still favouring them because they've got to come across this gully, which will slow them down, but it's looking like we should be getting ready to be shooting very soon down there.
Just getting faint sounds of the hounds now. towards Torbjorn now.
Yep,
Yeah, they're going down again.
they're going down again, which is
Yeah, the deer's cut right. It's cool watching it unfold on the screen.
it is, isn't it?
With the direction the deer was heading, both Erik and Torbjorn were in with a shot. The hounds started straight towards Erik, but then turned away. Erik and Sam made a dash to try and cut them off, but they were too late and the deer moved off towards Torbjorn. Les was straight onto it and they were at the ready. The hounds were now just in front of them, but in the thick Caprosma and dogwood, they couldn't see anything. The deer then turned and ran high up the head of the valley, and a shot rang out.
Who shot it, Ad?
Good news spread over the radio, and we drove up to meet Dean, another crew member who had been waiting up high with his young son, when the small stag, with Wazza the hound hot on his heels, headed straight for him, and he was able to take it cleanly with one shot. The deer was in a very steep spot for retrieval, but with the aid of a winch, the whole animal could be hauled back up the steep face and loaded into the vehicle. Keen for one last chance before dark, the hard-working Adam had recovered the dogs, and then him and Bogey tipped them in on a fresh mark he'd found earlier. It didn't take long and we were on again. This time the deer bolting for the lower country and straight towards us. Erik was in with a chance, but luck just wasn't coming his way, and the deer did him again. Magnus and I also got a brief taste of the action, but the deer that day was too good for us and the dogs, and it made it to safety in the thick cover, eventually losing the hounds. A big day had finally come to an end, and on dusk everyone turned their focus to the very important job of recovering the hounds. Just before dark, Paul got his hands on the last member of the crew, and after a huge day, sleep would sure come easy. We definitely all needed it, as tomorrow we were set for another blockbuster. For our hunt on the second day, the crew had relocated deeper into the bush, and from before first light, camp was a hive of activity as everyone prepared for a big day. The weather had turned on another beautiful Victorian winter morning with clear skies all around, and as the sun topped the ridges, we set off on the walk into the bush.
Big start to our second morning here. We're throwing all man, animal resources at it we can. So the famous Toponga Valley, up in the state forest around Big River, and we've got all the crews heading in above us to the higher country, ready to track out for sign and get the dogs rolling, and we're coming in down low in a classic flush hunt with the shooters down low in the valleys and the deer starting up high and making their way down this thicker kind of scrubby country that you get in these valley floors. So walking the boys in, we've got two crews here, we're going to split up and set, wait maybe about half an hour for the crews to get up above us here and tip the dogs in on fresh sign. Hopefully that voicing starts straight away, which is what you want to hear as a shooter, and then just wait for the action to unfold.
Paul and Adam had a solid plan in place, and our three teams of shooters were to be put into position along the valley floor at key points where they had previously known the deer to travel. Erik and Sam would be at the lower end of the valley, Les and Torbjorn would be in the middle, and Paul, Magnus and I would be furthest up. At the head of the valley, Adam had driven to the ridge to walk in the hounds and begin searching for fresh sign, and it wouldn't be long before he marked the start and the hounds were away, headed roughly in our direction. For us, positioned throughout the valley floor, the waiting game had now started again. The bush was quiet, the radio was quiet, and we patiently waited, straining to hear the slightest sound that might indicate that things were going to heat up. It took some time before it started to look and sound like the hounds were coming our way, and what began to unfold was an exciting but frustrating chain of events that would plague us all morning, but in essence is the honest reality of hunting sambar over hounds. Paul's years of experience and gut instincts told him that the small clearing that we were holding off was the place to be, but for today, the deer just didn't want to come near it, and on multiple occasions they ran past us, above us, behind us and opposite, but never in front of us. Unfortunately, the same scenario was playing out for Erik and Torbjorn, but they weren't complaining. After a quiet day yesterday, today they were right in amongst it, with the hounds roaring towards them a number of times and even getting glimpses of the deer, but still they couldn't get a chance for a clear shot. Mid-morning, the hounds were in full voice, pursuing the Sambar back down the valley. Torbjorn got a glimpse of the deer and prepared for a shot, but it quickly vanished into the safety of the thick scrub. After multiple close calls and adrenaline-charged encounters between all of us, the hounds came Torbjorn's way again, and this time he was in a great position and finally got eyes on the elusive Sambar as it ran the riverbank and climbed up onto a small terrace through relatively open ground. Torbjorn had made an incredible shot to take the deer cleanly on the run and through the shortest of gaps. Backing yourself on the smallest of opportunities to make a shot like this is the epitome of being both a hunter and a marksman, and honing your skills to this level was something that we could all draw inspiration from.
So this is my first Sambar doe down here in Australia, so I'm super excited about that. And I heard so much about that this is a very exciting hunt, and I can really verify that. Because first you hear the dogs, and it's not like just barking, it's like a singing sound, you hear it up in the forest. So that kind of builds up the feeling and the nerves. So that's a great add to everything. It builds up the nerves, so you really are prepared when the animal comes. And like in this case, when everything works out, it's just perfect. You're super happy about it.
News of Torbjorn's success travelled over the radio and everyone was thrilled. And with the hound pack now split and another deer being pursued, it looked like there was still more action coming our way. Up at the head of the valley, two of the dogs that split away earlier had been pursuing a deer that had now bailed in the river, a tactic that Sambar often used to mask their scent and evade the hounds. Adam's experienced and favourite hound, the ever-reliable Wazza, was no slouch and knew the tactic well, and he'd cleverly stayed on the deer and had now bailed a mature hind in a shallow pool. Adam and a few of his friends were holding off higher up the ridge, so started pushing down through the thick gully towards the sound of Wazza's distinct baying. And the situation that was unfolding was about to present a very special opportunity for one of the youngest members of the crew. Paul Stevens, or Red as he's more affectionately known amongst his mates, has been hound hunting with Adam and the Boag's crew since he was 18. And now over 22 years later, they are still great mates. While some things changed, thankfully many stay the same. And today Red's still a passionate hunter, but also a proud father of two young daughters, Jessica and Melanie, who often join him up in the bush, camping, fishing and hunting. His oldest daughter Melanie is now 14 and has been in and around the hunting scene since she was a toddler and loves every chance she can get to be out with her dad. Mel's grown into a super keen hunter, and it was no surprise she was by her dad's side that day. And after countless trips away on the hounds and sharing in the success of the hunt with her dad and other members of the crew, Melanie finally had a long-awaited chance at taking her first deer. Under the guidance of Adam and Dad, together they snuck in carefully through the thick cover on the river's edge to find a break in the scrub and line up on the bailed hind.
Safety off, and whenever you're ready, Adam. That's it. Good girl. Good job.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Beautiful. First deer.
Yep.
Magic. Congratulations.
Mel made a perfect clean shot, and it was a proud moment for Red, and a special one for all involved, and no doubt one both Mel and her dad will talk about for years to come. With the deer recovered from the river, it was quickly field dressed by Adam and Red, and they all started on the long hike back up the spur to bring out the prized venison. Back over at our position, the rest of the hounds were onto another deer, and they'd come tantalisingly close to Magnus and I, but again the deer moved away. this time cutting high above us and turning to run down the valley. Over in Erik's part of the gully, he and Sam could now both hear the hounds rapidly coming their way, and they had to move quickly to get higher and try and get in front of the deer. They did their best, but the Sambar was now in top gear trying to evade the hounds, and it turned again and started back up the valley.
Gone past us, Paulie, heading towards you. Up a bit all out.
No sooner than we'd heard the news over the radio from Sam, we started to hear the hounds. And this time, they were coming straight for us. Paul was adamant we stay put. Slightly uphill we heard movement, and it was on. Magnus delivered a brilliant shot, under pressure and on the run. He was bang on target with one well-placed shot to the vitals. And after such an exciting day, the sense of relief soon turned to joy. Congratulations, Magnus. You've got your first Sambar over the Boag's hounds.
Yeah, it's been a really great morning. We had this beautiful spot. We see the water underneath us. We've been hearing dogs and animals passing around us. So many times between you and me, have started to give up on it.
A little bit frustrating, exciting, but a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
Paul worked his heart out, trying to keep us in the same spot. And how many times do you reckon the deer or the hounds have gone around us or got away from us today?
Yeah, at least 7 or 8. They've come very close, quite a few times, frustratingly close.
Your brother got lucky only maybe an hour or so earlier, and we were happy with that, but this guy just topped it off.
Yeah, well, really a golden opportunity that came from nowhere. I was, to be honest, looking the other way. I don't know why. I got the feeling that something was coming from the other way. And we turned around and there she were. And we got what we call back home an aimpoint movement, where we got an animal on the run and perfect distance. You just swing through it and shoot, and this is what we use them for.
Exactly.
Fast moving target.
Exactly. Quick target. The deer probably came in the lead up. You can see maybe 10 yards off us when it was on the run.
10 metres.
Ideal situation, which is very rare. It ran from the cover into the open, and you got a beautiful, leading shot on the run.
You didn't panic. You actually let it come out and give you the proper shot.
And Paul had been saying all morning, imagine how good it would be if a deer just ran out in the open when we got cameras. Well, we need to thank Paul. Congratulations, mate. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your family has been, 4 generations, and your crew been working up here, and your experience shows. All the guys, there's so many unsung heroes in this hunt today, and they're spread all over this valley and up around the systems and down blocking the road, and they've worked tirelessly, your brother, all the other guys, all weekend, looking for sign. They've been tracking out, valleys and gully heads, trying to find fresh marks and keep the dogs moving. A successful hunt, and what a beautiful way to cap it off in the state forest here in public land in Australia on a beautiful winter's day.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Sure doesn't. And these guys, the dead set heroes of it all. The afternoon had ended perfectly, and everyone who was nearby pitched in to help with the task of walking out the dogs. And then we started on field dressing the deer and packing them out to the road before heading back to base camp. In another stroke of good luck, as evening approached, Paul took the guys for a flush hunt at a nearby hotspot, and it all came together for Erik, who delivered a brilliant shot on the run to take a mature Sam behind. That evening there was certainly a lot to celebrate and be thankful for, especially the hard work and dedication put in by Paul, Adam, Sam and Les, not to mention each member of the Boag's hound crew. In the tradition of celebrating the hunt and the harvest, the Boag's family put on a huge spread for all involved, and the weekend had given our new friends a detailed insight into the passions and enviable lifestyle of a fantastic group of people that share a common bond of Sambar hunting through family, their friends, their hounds, and the magic of the Victorian high country.
Maroka 30 is the proud hunting clothing and equipment sponsor of Beyond the Divide, custom designed for our local conditions and uniquely Australian. Ask for it in store at your local gun shop or check out the full range at maroka30.com.au.